What a race at Atlanta. Mother Nature plays a factor. An eventful race with a lot of three wide action. Speedway Light, I'm starting to enjoy. So let's talk about it. Speedway Light. Sorry, I will not consider this a super speedway. Atlanta is a mile and a half. Super speedways are Daytona, Talladega, 2.5, 2.66. Mile and a half to me, it's Speedway Light. Come at me. That's just my thought. It produces great racing. It's exactly like Daytona Talladega, but it is not a super speedway. End of story there. But yeah, the main story again for the second straight week. Mother Nature. She followed us from Chicago. She ended this one roughly 70 laps early, so that's a disappointment. But let's break down what happened in this race. So Eric Almirola on pole, Ford actually showing up. I think Newman sent me and showed me that Stuart Haas had 3 cars in the top 10. Like, good on them. They had a great race. So Almirola leads. He was leading early. He made a mistake later on and later in stage 1, not blocking the top and gets shuffled back. We didn't hear from him again. But on lap 17, Harrison Byrne by himself spins and causes the caution. Stage 1 pretty much uneventful, like wreck wise. We had battles. We had Tyler Reddick make a amazing save through the tri-oval, getting loose. But that's about it. Like, for like any eventful thing that I can remember, it was hit or miss. Like, drivers bobbing and weaving, going high lane was dominant like it always is. Bottom trying to be there, bottom getting loose. Um, and coming to the end of the first stage, pretty much photo finish by a couple thousandths of a second. Ryan Blaney beats Kyle Larson out, which that was beautiful. That's like old Atlanta. I forgot to mention this earlier, but we did have Richard Childress bring out the number 29 Goodwrench Chevy from when Harvick won his first race at Atlanta 3 weeks after we lost Earnhardt. That was beautiful seeing Harvick and Childress driving around. It was nice seeing that car again. But back to the summary of the race. We get going after the stage break, probably about 85 laps or so, and William Byron spins. Well, Byron was also back there because of a pit road penalty where a crew member put both hands on, they said the hot side, so where the cars are at. The guy leaned over to grab the tire, put both hands on the ground. That's the penalty. Byron was back in traffic. Corey LaJoie seems to come up through the tri-oval, spin Byron out on lap 80, so he could, no damage, continues on. On lap 92, Erik Jones might have made contact. Kyle Larson did say it was his fault, and I kind of believe him. It was just hard from that camera angle to see whether or not Jones actually got into him. So there's that. It caused another caution. At this point, NBC or USA, NBC is starting to talk about there's rain in the area. We don't think we're going to make it 260 laps, which is a bummer. We made it to lap 200 pretty much. And then we get back on, and 5 laps from halfway, Jones again. But this time, it kind of looked like LaJoie came down into Erik Jones. So Jones, Corey spins, gets into Tyler Reddick, and then that also clips Ty Gibbs and Ross Chastain. They get some damage. Gibbs was having a hell of a day. He was in the top 10. The front was pretty much dominated by the Fords up until the last stage. Even then, they were still dominant. With 5 to go, Bowman gets loose out of turn 4, gets into Denny, and they both hit each other and go. Also, I forgot to mention, on Larson's spin on 92, they changed just the right rear, not the right front. So as he's exiting pit road on the apron of 1 and 2, the right front tire explodes, tries to keep going, but his race is ultimately done. With 5, I talked about Blaney. Denny spins. Mid-wreck, Denny's spotter even says, yeah, the 48 got into us. So we might be starting that rivalry up. Brad K, NASCAR, because of the threat of rain, does not restart. Does not even open pit road. Brad Keselowski wins second stage. And then everyone pits, except for a handful of guys who pit or like middle of stage 2 under the Corey caution, I believe. So 80 laps to go. Harvick spins. He gets the right front. Unfortunately, goes 5 laps down. But the NASCAR doesn't throw a yellow for his spin. We just continue racing. And then 6 laps later, we get the caution that pretty much ends the race with Ryan Preece lifting because Ryan Blaney gets in front of him, and Bubba gets into Preece, and they both spin, ending their day. So kind of unfortunate. Let's take a look at the top 10. Here they are in their glory. William Byron collects his 4th win of the season. That's going to help out in the playoffs, as I'm going to show here shortly. Daniel Suarez, 2nd, was pushing a ton in that quicker state car. He was hunting for that win. They even said he wanted to win since Ross won 2 weeks ago, and SVG just won at Chicago. The Dinger, he ran great. Michael McDowell was running on fumes at the end. They were praying for the rain, or some idea on what NASCAR was doing, but they come home 4th thanks to not having pit road open. Kyle Busch 5th. Brad K, after having the pit at the stage break, and we only ran 20 laps, gets back up in the 6th. JJ Yeley at one point was inside the top 5, NBC pointed out, in a Rick Ware racing car, and he comes home 7th. Justin Haley's here in 8th. Not a bad day. Probably better than his day in the Xfinity yesterday, just saying. Ryan Blaney, up front all day, comes home 9th. And then Ricky Stenhouse Jr., showing why he knows how to run the super speedways, which is props to him. Like, super speedways are kind of his track, but not a bad looking top 10. Kind of a mixed bag. Like, the field was constantly shuffling. It was a super speed race on a not super speedway. Let me just put it that way. Here's the playoffs as they run. Unfortunately, my PC's flipping out, so I can't show it. But we have William Byron in 1st with his 4 wins for the playoff standings. I don't know. This is just what NBC showed for playoff standings. I'm not 100% sure on who is the actual points leader. But here it is. William Byron leads with 4 wins, has 27 playoff points. Those are going to come in handy. Kyle Busch 2nd with 3 wins, 17 playoff points. And 3rd is Kyle Larson with 2 wins, 12 playoff points. Martin Truex Jr. is also locked in with his 2 wins, 11 playoff points. Ross Chastain has a win, 10 playoff points. Denny Hamlin with 9 playoff points. Ryan Blaney with 8 playoff points. Tyler Reddick with 8. Christopher Bell has 7. Joey Logano has 7. And the last driver locked in is Ricky Stenhouse with 5 playoff points. So here's the bubble heading into New Hampshire next week. Kevin Harvick has a 126-point gap. Virtually, if we don't get a new winner, Harvick is almost confirming himself to be locked in. But we still have about 8 weeks to go, I believe, something like that. We're getting close, but we're still 3 months away. Chris Buescher is now 13th with a 105-point buffer to the 16th. And in 14th, his RFK Racing teammate, Brad Keselowski, has a 100-point buffer. Realistically, if we don't get 2 new winners, those 3 drivers are for sure locking themselves in. Now we get to the cut line, which it's getting pretty tight down here. In 15th, we have Daniel Suarez with only a 3-point buffer. In 16th, Michael McDowell with a 3-point buffer, which just shows this 4th place came in big for McDowell. In 17th, 3 points out, is Bubba Wallace. 18th, minus 13, the Dinger, who finished 3rd. Ty Gibbs is 26 out. And in 20th, minus 40, which pretty much is close to a full race, Austin Cindric. The playoff bubble is pretty tight once you get down to it. The 15th through. So that'll be an interesting battle to keep watch. I think from here on out, I'm going to try to talk about the playoff bubble so we can see. Hopefully next time I can actually have it up on screen. I'll try to find it better when they'll actually show. But wild race, had loads of fun. Unfortunately, the rain ended it early. I think we were close to having a big one. Drivers were saving cars left and right. That I think we were on the brink of getting another caution. That's gonna do it for today. Like the video, subscribe if you're new here. I'm going to be posting, live streaming a lot more. So this week I should be either posting a video or live streaming every day. So should be fun. And I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.